Some say the Christian life is difficult because there are so many rules. Others say the rules make it easier. Still others say there aren't many rules at all. With thousands of denominations out there, it's not surprising there are so many viewpoints. The awesome thing about God is that He's constant, all-loving, and willing to wait while we find our way. So, what exactly does it mean to be a Christian? And how are we to live a good Christian life? We tackle these questions and more as we go forward and live life with joy and on purpose.
Hello, I'm MJWest. Welcome to our show. Today our discussion is going to be about stones in our hearts. But in reality, first what we need to look at is what put them there. So I'm going to tell you about a personal experience from my childhood and explain how I went through the process of forgiveness and of Jesus helping me to overcome the stone in my heart concerning this person. When I was a young child, I was bullied. A lot of us have been. In fact, I think everybody at some point in their lives is bullied. We're always bullied because of something about us that is different. Even the most popular persons can tell you that they have been bullied at some time in their lives. I think all of us experience it because sometimes people are mean, and that's just the way of it. And part of being a Christian is that we aren't supposed to be mean anymore. We are supposed to show kindness, compassion, and love. So with that in mind, let me go into this bullying experience just for a moment. So I was a very young child, and a particular girl just took exception to me for whatever reason. I'm not exactly sure what. You know, people have reasons that they never express. But for some reason, she decided she didn't like me. So she teased me relentlessly all the time, telling me, you know, I was ugly, telling me that she hated red hair. My hair was a lot redder back then. And, you know, whatever reasons. And she would just verbally say things to me all the time, telling me, putting me down, telling me terrible things about myself that weren't really true, but it didn't matter. And it made other kids laugh at me, and I didn't have a whole lot of friends. I had one or two, but I didn't have a whole lot of friends because I was nervous about making friends with other people, thinking that they might be a bully too. And we have a saying in the United States, I don't know if other people have it or not, but there was a little saying that my mom taught me, and she said, "Sticks and stones may break your bones, but words will never hurt you." That saying is wrong. Words do hurt. They really do. And you can carry those words with you, or that feeling of low self-esteem can be carried through into adulthood and beyond, as we all know. We know people who have issues with self-esteem, even nowadays. Some of them are the most beautiful people in the world. They have beautiful personalities, or they're just beautiful in the way they look or the way they present themselves or anything like that. But at the same time, you know, sometimes there are people out there that even though they have what you think is every advantage in the world, they still have low self-esteem. And one of the expressions of low self-esteem, I did not know this until I was older, is that they have to put other people down. But I didn't know that as a child. I did not know that this girl who was putting me down probably had low self-esteem issues herself. And so over time, it got worse, and I went through school with her. I mean, from the time I was very young till I graduated from high school. And this person continually put me down that entire time. So, I mean, not every day, but close enough, you know, just every time she saw me, she put me down. So I had a lot of animosity towards this person. I flat out hated her. I mean, kids do. That's what you do. When I came back to Christ in my 30s, when I came back to Jesus and realized that I wasn't living the life that I needed to live, I started looking at myself and paying attention to myself. I had a prayer partner who worked with me. Both of us were trying to improve ourselves because we felt like we had not accomplished much in our lives. And so we started reading Bible studies to help us learn more about the Bible. But we also started reading self-help books and doing workbooks to help us learn more about ourselves and why we reacted the way we did to some of the outside stressors in our lives. And it was an eye-opening experience. Before that, I really just looked at self-help books as just something that other people did. It never occurred to me to take a look at a few and to use them and to apply them to my own life. And so it was a big eye-opener for me to see these self-help books that actually do help. They're called self-help for a reason. It's for you to go through and improve your own person, to improve your own personality on your own, where you don't have an opportunity to talk to somebody or whatever. So as we were going through these self-help books, we went through a self-help book that made us examine our childhood closely, made us examine the reactions that we had to things closely. And as we went through the book examining these reactions, we then came to a point where the author insisted that we had to address those actions and to do things to make those actions stop happening. And one of the things that we had to do was to confront people who we felt harmed us and to either forgive them or ask their forgiveness, because it could be that we had done something to them that made them do something to us. It's not an excuse, it's just what happened. I could no longer confront the girl who bullied me. She had passed away. And so I had to examine my heart. I had to look into my psyche. I had to determine what I could do to ask forgiveness or give forgiveness. And so, you know what happened. I had to turn to God. I had to turn to God, and I had to stare the word in the face, open my Bible and read all the scriptures about forgiveness. And in my heart, I had to find a way to forgive this person for the things that she did to me, and to ask God for forgiveness if I did anything to her that initially made her start picking on me. So all that to say, that's what happened in my childhood. But as I went through learning more about Jesus, reading my Bible more, learning more about what Christ expects of me, I realized that even though I had asked forgiveness and had given forgiveness, there was still times in my life where I would think about this girl and this anger would engulf me. I would be, that is so unfair. I would think about what this girl did to me. Little weird things. You know how it goes. You'll be thinking about something else and something will trigger a feeling, and you'll think back on the past about somebody that did something to you or somebody who had fun with you or whatever. Well, in this respect, if I were doing certain things, I would think about this girl. And several of those things, I have to explain about this girl a little bit more. She was a very talented person. First of all, she was very pretty. And that's without makeup or anything. She was very pretty. She played several instruments, and she did it effortlessly. She was just a beautiful, I only ever heard her playing the piano mostly, but I know she played other instruments, and people said she did it well. But one of her other talents was that she was a fantastic artist. You could give her a photograph, and she could paint in oil paintings a picture, and you would think you were looking at a photograph. She was very, very, very talented. All of that to say that this person had everything going for them. And because she was such a large part of my life, I came from a very small town, and I went to school with this girl, as I said, all through school. I knew all these things about her, and she knew all these things about me. And when I think about things today, whenever I hear a particularly beautiful piece of music, I think about her playing. Whenever I see somebody who's done great artwork, I look at that and I think, oh, that's like so-and-so. And so, all of these things come together. You'll be doing something just totally out of the blue, and suddenly you'll hear something or you'll see something that reminds you of a person who picked on you or bullied you. And so these thoughts would come into my head, and I would still feel anger, even though I had, talked to God about forgiveness. And on and on and on. And so I just handed it over to God one day. I said, someday, God, there are 3 or 4 incidents in my life that bring me to that kind of anger, all involving different people. I think about that person, I get angry. And I wanted God to take that away from me. It is not a good feeling. You know that negative emotions do affect what you do. They affect you long after you think they do. Negative emotions can cause stress years down the road, and we are not aware of it at the time. And so I ask God, lift this burden from me. Take this burden from me. Take this anger that I have towards this person away from me, from several people. Take it away from me. And over the years, I calmed. The more I got to know about God, the more I got to know myself. The more I knew about myself, the more my spirit calmed. God put oil on troubled waters in my heart. He soothed those troubled waters. So there I am thinking that I've forgiven this woman, this girl. Well, she was a woman when she passed away. I thought I'd forgiven her because the anger was gone. It was gone. And the anger I had towards the other people that had done things to me, it was gone. It was gone. And in my mind and in my heart, suddenly when I think about those people, there's no longer any anger. There's actually a kind of sadness and in some cases pity. Because when I think about those people and their lives and I think about what they did to me was a minor thing. But when I think about how their lives were so messed up, several of the people that I knew, their lives were very, very, very messed up. And I look back on it now as an adult and I see, you don't understand everything that happens when you're a child. But when you're a grown-up and you start looking back on some of these things, evaluate them for what they are. Look at the person who may have done something to you. Look at the lifestyle that either they lived at the time or they may be living now if they are still alive. Look at their lives and ask yourself, were they happy? And do you know, in every single case of the people that I felt bullied me when I was younger, they were not happy. They did not have happy lives. They did not have the gentle, peaceful life that I thought they had. Just because they had all of these talents, just because all of these things that seemed like everything in their life was going for them, they actually didn't have a happy life. The girl that I'm speaking with was divorced twice by the time she was an adult. She had several unhappy things happen to her, many unhappy things. She lost a child too. And so you sit there and you think about these things and you think, I feel bad for her. I feel terrible for her. So that brings me up to the stones in the heart. We carry stones in our heart. We carry grief and anger and negative feelings, usually towards other people, inside our hearts. And we can carry it for a long time. I was in my 30s, before I finally found the wherewithal, the studying with my prayer partner daily, on a daily basis for years, before I could find the forgiveness for this girl. And it was an amazing thing because it lifted a burden off of my shoulders. Suddenly, I felt like that stone was gone. And I felt like that Jesus had to have removed it. Jesus removed that stone. He removed all negative feelings that I had about that girl. He removed them all from my heart. It took a while. Yes, it did. It took a while because he wanted me to study the Word and to understand what I was asking and to walk a mile in that girl's shoes. Because he tells us that in the Bible. Not exactly in those words, but he tells us to consider other people, to consider the trials and tribulations that they are going through, and that when we react to them or act towards them, that we consider those things.
Did you know that the On Purpose team prays daily for your needs? We do. Jesus is the great physician who can heal any ailment, spiritual or physical. He can provide for any need. If you need prayer, let us know about it. It is our privilege and pleasure to hold you up to the Most High God. There is nothing too big or too small for God. Visit www.pelicast.net day or night and click the Request Prayer link at the bottom of the page. Our prayer team will pray for your needs.
You're on the go. Rushing to meet deadlines, surrounded by chaos. Just getting it done. Take time out for you. Read a paperback or ebook. Escape the grind. Commune with God with uplifting Christian romance. Action adventure, mystery, sci-fi. Your choice, your time, anytime. Illuminating fiction. Pelican Book Group.
When someone is having a bad day, do you join in and give them a worse day if they've been mean to you? You know, there have been a couple of times when I've gone to a cashier or somebody like that, and you can tell something terrible happened. They had an interaction with a mean customer or something. Sometimes they're upset and you can see it. Do you commiserate with them, or do you try to make them feel better? And it's the same with every person in your life. When your child comes to you with a grievance, or where they think somebody's being unfair to them, or something has happened, yes, you can commiserate with them, but at the same time, should you try to lift them out of that spirit so that they don't have it, so that that negative feeling passes and the positive feelings are in place and make them feel better? How many times have you tried to make your children feel better? And think about this, even when you kiss a boo-boo, you're trying to make your child feel better. It is the human nature to complain, I think. But at the same time, when somebody complains to you, they want you to listen. They don't always want you to solve the problem. They want you to listen and commiserate with them. But at the same time, I feel that it is our duty, once we listen and commiserate, to make them feel better. I feel that it is a duty as a mother towards my child and as a family to make my family feel better. When things happen, I do commiserate with my kids, but I also generally try to make them feel better about themselves too. And they do the same thing with their friends. And my husband does the same thing with me. We don't need to dwell on those negative emotions. We don't need to make people feel even worse. Our job as Christians, God tells us to act with mercy, act with compassion, greet people with kindness, greet them with love. And so when somebody comes to you, that's what God means. Listen, commiserate, and then do something to make them feel better, even if it's just a compliment. You know, I would tell my children, they would come to me upset about something their friend said, or, whatever, and I would tell them, but you have lots of advantages. You have us, and you have me to talk to. And, they generally felt better about that. But I'm going to come back to this stones thing. I keep referring to it, but at the same time, you're wondering, what does she mean by stones in the heart? So, this bully, these words, from different people, not just this one girl, but from other people too, laid in my heart. And when I asked God for forgiveness, and forgiveness was a process. When I said, "Forgive me, Lord," it didn't just lift my negative feeling right away, although that can happen. That can happen depending on the person you are and your relationship with God. But in my case, I felt like God probably needed a little more time to teach me about forgiveness. I'm one of those people who sometimes doesn't learn quickly, but that's the way it is. And so forgiveness for me was a process. There was so much to absorb in the Bible about it. There was so much to absorb about how we are supposed to approach our fellow man. So it took me a long time to feel as if I had truly forgiven them. And when I came to that point, as I said before, I came to a point where I pitied them. I actually felt sorry for them. And I thought, oh, I guess I've been freed. I've forgiven them. I didn't hate them anymore. I didn't love them anymore. I just didn't feel anything but sorry for them. And I thought, I've been made free. And I went around for a couple of years like that, thinking that I've been set free from the anger and the hate. And I was. I actually was set free from the anger and the hatred and the negative emotions and the bitterness and the unfairness of it all. I was set free from that. But what I didn't know was there must have been a little tiny stone still in my heart towards this person. And I had an amazing epiphany a week ago. Just 1 week ago. This is 40 years after these incidents happened. Probably 20 years since I felt that I had forgiven her. But I was doing the dishes one day. We had just come back from our walk, and you know on our walks I talk to God. I've said that in other broadcasts. So I talk to God a lot. So usually when I come into the house, my husband and I mill around doing different things, and I generally do the dishes that are left in the sink from the night before, if there are any, and also wash up the pet dishes. We have several cats. We have three and a half cats. Our neighbor's cat comes over to eat every morning. So we have 3.5 cats and a dog. And so every morning when we come in from the walk, I gather up the dishes and I, wash them. So I'm sitting there with my hands in soapy water, scrubbing dishes, and I'm thinking about, being in heaven. And I'm thinking, and part of the reason I was thinking that is because we have some very beloved dogs that we have already lost. And we lost them, about 5 or 6 years ago. And whenever I walk the dogs, I think about those other dogs because we walked them all together for a long time until we lost 2. So I was just sitting there thinking, well, maybe I'll see my dogs in heaven because heaven is supposed to be something that makes you happy. And my mind was just wandering. And so thinking about heaven, thinking about what it's going to be like, would there be pretty sunsets and everything. And all of a sudden, this thought, but I have to tell you, it didn't come into my head suddenly. It was so sneaky, it almost tiptoed in. I would sit there doing the dishes, and this thought came, and that I would see my bully, and it would be wonderful to see her because she wouldn't have her demons anymore. And I was just sitting there scrubbing dishes, and then all of a sudden, I stopped short, and I was like, what? What did I just think? And I know that God put it in my head. I know He did. I would see my bully in heaven because you know what? She was a believer. I will see my bully in heaven, and it will be a wonderful experience because the demons that plagued her here on earth, she will no longer have. And my mind was blown. That thought just tiptoed into my head that at first I was just doing dishes. I wasn't paying attention to what I was thinking. They were just wandering. My thoughts were wandering all over. So I know that God put that in my head. I know that God lifted that final stone from my heart. And it was an amazing experience. And I have thought off and on about it over the last week, and I knew it was going to be one of the broadcasts. And one of the most amazing things was that I had intended to broadcast something else. And then I realized I needed to talk about this. We need to look at the stones in our heart. We need to look at the anger, the bitterness, the unfairness, the hatred. We need to look on them as little stones stuck inside of our heart. And we need to ask God to release us from all of it. To be able to look at the people who hurt us in the past and maybe in the present too. To look at them and say, I hope I see you in heaven without the demons that plagued you on earth. I hope that the love that neither one of us could give each other down here will be able to give each other up there. That Jesus changed our hearts so much that we can love one another without any qualm, without any issue, without any stones in our hearts. I hope that this word comes to you. I hope that you hear it too. And I hope that you start praying right now that Jesus will release you from all the stones in your heart too.
On Purpose is funded through sponsor support. We thank you for your generosity. To donate or to learn more about sponsorships and the On Purpose mission, visit www.pelicast.net. If you have questions or comments about this program, email us at suggestionbox@pelicast.net.
Thank you for watching today's episode. Join us next week as we tackle yet another tough issue from a Christian perspective.
Pelican presents, in cooperation with donors like you, the program that tackles tough issues from a Christian perspective. Hear from knowledgeable guests, real people like you, trained professionals, experienced men and women with practical advice and usable life-changing tips. Deepen your relationship with Christ as you delve into Scripture and enrich your life. Unleash your spirituality and live life with joy and on purpose. Join us Fridays at 3 p.m. Eastern and visit online at www.pelicast.net.